Good evening. I'm Ankit, and this is the Daily News Simplified of 27th of January. Now, in today's DNS, because it was off yesterday, we have taken up 9 important articles. The first article is on Kaziranga National Park, because yesterday in Kaziranga National Park, a golden tiger was spotted. And after the Assam's chief minister shared the image, it became viral on the social media. Therefore, the Hindu newspaper, it covered the photograph of a golden tiger in its very first page. The second news article of the day is on Aadhaar card, because Aadhaar, it has been at the forefront of development of digital public infrastructure in the country. However, EPFO, that is Employee Provident Fund Organization, it has stopped accepting Aadhaar card as a proof of date of birth. Hence, we'll be dealing with Aadhaar and its various act on what it tries to, as on what Aadhaar can be used as a proof of identity and it cannot be used as a proof of citizenship. Now, the third article of the day, it is on coffee, and this article was covered in the Business Line newspaper. And this has been in news because Brazil, which is world's largest producer of coffee, is witnessing a dry spell. And according to the experts, this will create a less production of coffee in Brazil. Thereby, the prices of coffee is stated to increase in the upcoming months. The fourth news of the day is on Gift City. And again, this news was covered by the Business Line newspaper. Because Ministry of Finance, it has allowed unlisted Indian companies to list themselves in Gift City, which will enable these companies to gain finances and resources from international investors. Then we will proceed to mains related articles of the day, the first of which is on edible oils. Because despite the fifth largest producer of edible oils in the country, India is one of the largest importers. And despite increasing in domestic demand, India has not been able to meet its domestic demand through indigenous production. Thereby, India is dependent on as much as 61% for its imports for its edible oil requirement. Therefore, we'll discuss in detail so as to what are the reasons India has not been able to scale up its domestic production of oilseeds. Then we will proceed to discuss India-France relations. And this was in news because French President Macron, he visited India on occasion of 26 January as a chief guest to the Republic Day parade. And during his visit, India signed many agreements with France, primarily among which was agreements on defense sector as well as space cooperation. Further, in the end, I will also summarize 3 op-eds of the Hindu newspaper. So please stay tuned till the end if you want to know about the summary, and we will also discuss in detail these 2 mains related articles. Hence, before moving forward, let me again reiterate the importance of you liking this video, because it helps us to be motivated and it also enables our content to reach more and more aspirants. Hence, without further delay, let us start our today's discussion with this article of the day that appeared in page 1 of the Hindu newspaper. Now, as you can see from this article, it is reported that a golden tiger is spotted in the Kaziranga National Park, which is in the state of Assam. Now, this golden tiger, it is not a different subspecies of the Royal Bengal tiger. Rather, the golden color of this particular tiger is due to a genetic mutation. Now, Assam is a home for various different national parks, which has been showed in this particular map. However, for the scope of limited time, you can get this or read this map in the documents which are provided in the description box down below. So let us discuss what is this Kaziranga National Park. Now, this Kaziranga National Park, it is located again, as I've said, in the state of Assam. Now, the boundaries of this particular national park is formed by Brahmaputra River in its northern and eastern side, whereas on its southern side, River Diflu forms its southern boundary. Also, an important river which is called as Dhanthiri, it also flows through the Kaziranga National Park. Hence, this Kaziranga National Park is home to three important rivers, that is Brahmaputra, Diflu, as well as Dhanthiri River. Now, this particular national park, it is home of one-horned rhinoceros, because as many as 2200 one-horned rhinoceros, which accounts for two-thirds of world's population of rhinoceros, it is located in this particular national park. Also, this national park is home to various other animals such as tiger, hoolock gibbon, buffaloes, as well as elephants. Now, because this park has an altitude difference from its east to western sides, therefore this park witnesses four different types of vegetations, which is given right here. Now, this particular park, it was formed because of recommendation of Mary Curzon back in the year 1908. As this particular lady, she was the wife of then Viceroy to India, that was Lord Curzon. And this was the important details of Kaziranga National Park. Hence, let us solve the model question which we have curated on Kaziranga National Park. And why are we dealing with Kaziranga National Park in the prelims section? It is because important national parks in India and wildlife sanctuary, they have again and again appeared in the prelims from time to time. For example, there was this question on Desert National Park in the year 2020 itself. Hence, let us practice the model question. The first statement of the model question, it states that golden tiger, which is found in Kaziranga, are subspecies of Bengal tiger, which again, as I've highlighted before, is an incorrect statement because they are not subspecies. Rather, the golden color of a particular tiger is due to genetic mutation. Hence, these golden tiger, they are same species as that of Bengal tiger. The second statement, it states that Brahmaputra river forms the southern boundary of this national park, which again is an incorrect statement because Brahmaputra, it formed northern as well as eastern boundaries of Kaziranga National Park, whereas the southern boundary, it was formed by Diflu river. Hence, second statement again is incorrect. The third statement, this national park was formed on recommendations of Lord Minto, which again is an incorrect statement because it was formed on recommendation of Mary Curzon, who was wife of then Viceroy Lord Curzon. Thereby, the correct statement in all these questions are none. Thereby, option D is the correct answer. Whereas option C was the correct answer for this 2020 PYQ. Now let us move to the second article of the day, again which appeared on the front page of the Hindu newspaper. Now this article reports that EPFO, which is Employee Provident Fund Organization, it has refused to accept Aadhaar as a proof of date of birth. And this has led to reiteration by the government that Aadhaar card, it cannot be used as a proof of citizenship as well as date of birth. And why you cannot use Aadhaar for these two requirements, let us understand in the following slide. Now back in 2016, the government of India, it passed Aadhaar Targeted Delivery of Financial and Other Subsidies, Benefits and Services Act. And this act, it provided of areas where you can use your Aadhaar. For example, there was this section 9 of this act which said specifically that Aadhaar, it cannot be used as an evidence of both citizenship as well as domicile. Further, the section 4 of this particular act, it agreed that Aadhaar card, it can be used as a proof of identity. Hence, people, they have used Aadhaar card as a proof of their identity because Aadhaar card, it is ingrained with two different kind of biometrics. For example, Aadhaar card, when you enroll for Aadhaar card, you are required to give your fingerprint as well as your iris scan. And these two particular biometrics, they can be utilized to identify a particular person. Therefore, you can use your Aadhaar card as a proof of identity. Further, the Section 5 of this Aadhaar Act of 2016, it stated that UIDAI, which is the regulatory authority responsible for Aadhaar, it shall undertake special measures to issue Aadhaar to various marginalized section and weaker section in the country. For example, children, women, senior citizens, people with disabilities, homeless people, they can even be issued Aadhaar by UIDAI. Hence, even persons who do not have a particular permanent address, even they can be issued with the Aadhaar card. Hence, these were the important sections that provide for various kind of usage or prohibits usage of Aadhaar in various different activities. Hence, let us solve the model question that we have curated on the lines of a model or a previous year question of the year 2018. Even in this previous year question, you can see Aadhaar card, a statement, it appeared that whether Aadhaar card can be used as a proof of citizenship and domicile, which from the section 9 of Aadhaar Act, you can definitely say that it is an incorrect statement. Now let us solve the model question. The first statement, it states Aadhaar can be accepted as a proof of identity for any purposes. Again, this statement is correct because section 4 of Aadhaar Act of 2016, it provided for use of Aadhaar as a proof of identity. Hence, first statement is a correct statement. The second statement, it states that foreign nationals can obtain Aadhaar card if he or she has been a resident of India. Has been a resident of India for a period of 90 days. Again, this statement is incorrect because a foreign national, he or she can obtain Aadhaar card, but only after he or she has been a continuous resident of India for 180 days. The third statement, it states Aadhaar number, it cannot be issued to persons who do not have any permanent dwelling house. Again, this statement is incorrect because section 5 of Aadhaar Act, it provided that UIDAI, it should undertake special measures even to issue Aadhaar card for persons who do not have any permanent dwelling house. Hence, the correct answer to this model question is option A, is only one statement is correct. Now, the answer to this PYQ was option D because Aadhaar number can also be deactivated after it has been issued by the authority. Now, let us move to the third article of the day, which appeared in the Business Line newspaper. And this article reports that rainfall has decreased in the country of Brazil, which is world's largest exporter of coffee. And because of this particular challenge, the future prices of coffee in Brazil, it has increased. Now, coffee, it is also an important crop as far as India is concerned, because many Indian states, particularly southern states, are large producers of coffee crop. Because coffee, it is a tropical crop which requires temperature for as much as 14 to 26 degrees centigrade. Therefore, you can understand that coffee crop, for it to cultivate, you require hot and rainy season. Also, the temperatures during the time of cultivation of coffee, it should not reduce less than 11 degrees. Hence, more than 11 degrees centigrade temperatures, it is essential for fruiting of coffee flower. Further, this coffee flower, it requires high rainfall, which is almost 100 to 200 centimeters in a period of year, and this rainfall should be well distributed. However, it is also important to note that coffee it cannot grow under a stagnant water. Hence, the rainfall it should be highly or adequately drained. Hence, you can see that these coffees they are cultivated on high elevation as well as on slopes, because these slopes they enable the water not to be stagnated. Also, coffee crops they require shelter from direct sunlight. Also, this an important aspect of coffee cultivation, because you cannot mechanize the coffee cultivation as you require manual labor at times where as far as coffee cultivation is concerned. Hence, and what are the major coffee growing areas in the country? As you can see from this particular graph, southern states, especially Karnataka, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu, they are the largest producers of coffee in India. Especially, it is Karnataka which is responsible for as much as two-thirds of total coffee production in the country. Also, southern states, especially Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, as well as northeastern states, they are other important producers of coffee in the country. Now, Brazil, as I've already highlighted, is the largest exporter of coffee in the world, whereas India, it is seventh largest exporter, and also India is a significant exporter. And India, it cultivates three types of. Majorly, it cultivates Arabica, which is the highest or the best form of coffee. Also, India cultivates Robusta as well as Liberica, which are other important forms of coffee. Now, based on this information, let us solve model question which we have curated on the lines of a previous year question that appeared in the year of 2022. And this question, it specifically asks us to identify the tea producing states in the country. Hence, we have curated a similar question on coffee producing states. As you can see from this graph, all these four states, that is Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, as well as northeastern states, they are major producers of coffee. Thereby, all options are correct. Whereas, all options were also correct for this DY. Now let us move to the fourth article of the day, which again appeared on page 6 of the Business Line newspaper. Now this particular news article, it highlights that Ministry of Finance, it has agreed that unlisted Indian companies, especially startups, they can list themselves in International Financial Services Center that is located in Gift City in Gujarat. Now, this particular provision of listing of unlisted companies, especially startups, it will enable these startups to gain finances, particularly from international investors. Hence, using this finances, these startups they can utilize the finances to increase their production as well as scale up their operations. And this is a significant aspect as far as resource mobilization is concerned in the Indian economy. Now let us deal with what is this International Financial Services Authority, which is responsible for working of International Financial Services Center. Now this particular authority, it was established back in the year 2020, and it was established through IFSC Act, which is an act or statute of 2019. Now this particular authority, it is headquartered in Gift City, which is located in Gandhinagar of state of Gujarat. Now this particular authority, it acts for both development and regulation of various financial services, products, and it is operated in the International Financial Services Center. Now what is the objective of establishing such international financial sector in Indian domestic territory? Because there are many important international financial centers around the globe. The primary are Singapore, Dubai, as well as Hong Kong. And when Indian companies they want to gain finance, they list themselves in these important financial centers. However, Government of India, it is of the opinion that rather than listing themselves in other important financial centers, Indian companies they can list themselves in our own international financial center. As this financial center, it will enable Indian companies to have a global connection. Further, it will also provide regional companies, especially companies in South Asia, for requirement of their international financing. Hence, with this particular authority, Government of India, it plans to make GIFT City an important international financial institution. Now, based on this information, let us solve the model question. And we have curated this model question because various forms of resource mobilization, particularly in international territories, has been an area of interest of UPSC. For example, there was this PYQ of the year 2016 which dealt with IFC Masala bonds, which is an instrument for companies to mobilize resources from international markets. And on this particular question, we have curated a model question for International Financial Services Center Authority. The first statement it states it is a statutory body created under SEBI Act, which again is an incorrect statement because it was created from IFSC Act of the year 2019. The second statement it states that at present GIFT IFSC is the only international financial center in India. Now, particularly when an aspirant, he or she, witnesses an absolute statement that particularly uses the word only or any, the particular aspirant has a tendency to mark that statement as incorrect. And let me emphasize that it is not always a right guess, because mostly UPSC has been utilizing these absolute statements and they specifically provide these absolute statement as correct statement. Hence, this second statement again is a correct statement because GIFT IFSC it is the only international financial services center in India. Hence, only one statement that is second is correct. Thereby, option B is the correct answer. Whereas the PYQ of the year 2016 is concerned, here option C was the correct answer. Now let us move to the main centric articles of the day. And this first particular article, it appeared in the Business Line newspaper. Now you have understood from the recent past that India has been an importer of edible oil. And despite India being the fifth largest producer of oil seeds, it is also one of the largest importers of oil seeds in the country. And why is this a persistent problem? Because domestically, India's oilseed production, it has stagnated in the recent past. And because of this, India has been unable to meet its domestic demand as far as oils are concerned. Now, why are we dealing with this particular news article from a mains related perspective? It is because UPSC GS Paper 3 syllabus, it highlights major crops and edible oil. It is a major crop because it is cultivated on as much as 14% of total cropped area in the country. Also, questions related to changes in cropping patterns of major crops in the country, they have been an area of interest as far as UPSC is concerned. For example, this 2018 model question, it asked us a question required us to elaborate on millets production in the country. And because increase in prices of edible oil has been an area of concern as far as Indian economy is concerned, therefore a question it can probably appear in the mains in coming years. Hence, if you have to gain a adequate content of this particular topic, please watch our mains related discussion on edible oil. Now let us deal with what are the stats related to edible oil production and imports in the country. As you can see from this particular graph, India imports as much as 16.5 million metric tons of edible oil in the last year. And this has been a continuous or persistent increase in the recent past. Because from this graph, you can see India's edible oil imports has continuously increased. And in the last 10 years, India's edible oil imports has gained as much as 1.5 times. And why are we increasingly importing edible oils? It is because India currently has a domestic demand of 25 million metric tons of edible oil. However, against this particular domestic demand, India has only been able to manufacture or produce about 10 million metric tons of edible oil. Hence, you can see this has been a persistent or steady demand of edible oils in the country, and therefore India is required to import this edible oil to meet this very domestic demand. And even in the recent past, especially from 2014 to 2023, India has somewhat increased its edible oil production. For example, you can see production of mustard oil has increased, as well as other important oil seeds such as soybean as well as cotton seed have also increased. And even after this increase, India is dependent on imports for as much as 61% of its domestic requirement. And this shows that India, it is dependent on other countries, especially African countries, for import of its edible oil requirements. And because India has been import dependent on edible oil, increase in prices in international markets, they've also trickled down to increase in prices at domestic market. For example, from this very particular graph, you can see that international prices of edible oil, it increased in August 2021. And based on this increase, India's domestic prices on edible oil, it also increased. Thereby, the increased international prices, they've also trickled down to domestic markets because of our high import dependence. Hence, any step to increase our edible oil imports, it is very much welcome as far as Indian economy is concerned. Because this import dependency has created or has led to almost $16.5 billion worth of import bill. And this has negatively impacted our current account deficit because it has increased in the recent past. Further, it also negatively affects our balance of payment because we are required to pay our import bill using US dollars. Now, why has been there a stagnation in edible oil production in the country? Because in the last 5 years or since 2015, India's edible oil production has continuously stayed around 10 million tons. Now let us discuss what are the reasons of this very stagnant production. Now, first of all, India's government of India, it provides domestic support for edible oil producing farmers. And under minimum support price program, what government of India says that farmers who grow oil seeds, they can sell it to government on minimum support prices. However, in practice, what has happened that this minimum support price regime, it increasingly procures more rice and wheat rather than oil seeds. Hence, because India's MSP program, it procures more rice and wheat as compared to oil seeds, thereby most large farmers, they have migrated from oil seeds to rice and wheat. Hence, most large farmers, they are shifted away from oil seeds, and what is left that most small farmers, they grow oil seeds. And also, as these small farmers, they are resource constrained, they use traditional seeds and traditional cultivation methods to produce oil seeds. And because of these traditional methods and archaic production methods, what has resulted into low productivity or low yields of oilseeds crops. And this lack in production by small farmers, it has also one more important challenge. Because as much as 70% of oilseeds production, it is done in rain-fed areas. And because of varying rainfall requirements, this production, it is very much vulnerable to destruction because of increasing climate change. And all these factors, such as utilizing traditional methods and rain-fed cultivation, it has resulted into stagnant production of oilseeds. Thereby, as much as 10 million metric tons have only been produced in the last few years per annum. Further, because of stagnant production and increasing domestic demand, what we have witnessed is that we have increased our import dependence on other countries. Because as I've already highlighted in the previous slide, as much as 61% import dependence is currently on external importers. Thereby, India has been a hostage to many other countries as far as import dependence is concerned. And this not only sacrifices our economic autonomy, but it also negatively affects India's ability to demonstrate strategic autonomy in the international sphere. Because when there's an increase in prices of edible oil in the international market, it results into increased inflation as far as domestic market are concerned. And even today, increase in prices of edible oil has created inflation in the Indian economy. And this has been a persistent challenge because even after increased inflation, small farmers they have not been able to scale up the production of oilseeds because of their traditional methods and rain-fed cultivation. And this has created a persistent challenge at increasing the production of oilseeds in the country. And in this regard, the government of India, it has taken many different steps to increase or to encourage farmers to grow more and more oilseeds. What are these challenges? Let us discuss them in the next slide. Now, the first step that the government has taken to boost oilseeds production in the country is related to increase in MSP. Because continuously, government of India, it has increased MSP on tur dal as well as on mustard as well as other important oilseeds such as groundnut, etc. And this increase in MSP has been complemented with also another step which is called a price deficiency payment system. Because under PM Asha initiative, what the government has done is that it encourages private companies or private dealers to procure oil seeds from farmers. And these procurement will be done on minimum support prices. And what is the difference between market prices and minimum support prices? The difference will be paid to the private companies by the government of India. And this is what you call a price deficiency payment system. And utilizing this very price deficiency payment system, government of India, it wants to decentralize the procurement of oilseeds throughout the country. Further, government, it has also targeted rice fallow areas for increasing the production of oilseeds. Because when rice crop is harvested, it results and it creates somewhat high levels of soil moisture. And this soil moisture, it can be utilized to plant oil seeds. Hence, not only the fallow regions will witness increased production of oil seeds, but it will also increase the incomes of farmers. However, the most important step in increasing the oilseeds production in the country, it came in form of National Food Security Mission for both oilseeds and oil palm. And in this particular scheme, what the government of India wants to do is that it wants to provide price assurance to farmers who cultivate oilseeds and oil palms. And this price assurance will be provided in a form of viability price, which is on the similar lines of MSP. Further, the farmers who aim to grow oil palm, they will also be provided support as far as planting materials is concerned. And Government of India, it is specially emphasizing on increasing production of oilseeds and oil palm in areas such as Northeast India as well as Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Hence, these four steps, that is increase in MSP, decentralized procurement through PM Asha scheme, targeting rice fallow regions in the country for increasing the production of oilseeds, as well as National Food Security Mission, with a special emphasis on targeting the oil palm consumption, is important as far as increasing the oilseeds in concern. Now you'll ask me a question, why government is specifically focusing on increasing the production of these oil palms. Let me tell you this in the next slide. Now India, it imports as much as 60% of its total domestic requirements. And out of total imports, 60% of imports, it constitutes of palm oil. Hence, in reducing imports, the most important step is to reduce the imports of oil palm particularly. And hence, when India, it increases the production of oil palm in the country, it will enable India to grow towards self-reliance as far as cultivation of oilseeds in the country. Further, oil palms, they also have a very different quality, because these oil palm, they have higher yield as compared to other oil seeds. For example, 1 hectare of oil palm plantation, it yields as much as 4,000 kilogram of oil palms. And this is against the sunflower oil, which when cultivated on a 1 hectare area, it only results into as much as 500 kilograms of sunflower oil. Hence, you can see the productivity or yield of oil palms, it is almost 8 times to that of sunflower. Hence, small number of land is required to achieve a high level of oil palm production in the country. Further, these oil palms, they are somewhat resistant to attacks of pest and other crop diseases. Hence, growing oil palm, it requires somewhat lower maintenance cost, and combined with high yields and low maintenance cost, it will help increase the income levels of farmers in the country. And it is because the government of India, it wants to double the farmers' income in the country, and moving them away from traditional crops like rice and wheat to oil palms will help achieve farmers increase their income levels. Further, emphasis on palm oil will also create job creation as well as value addition in the economy, because domestic oil blenders, they prefer these palm oils for blending purposes. And hence, when this palm oil, it is provided from domestic sources, it will help increase job creation and value addition as far as food processing industries are concerned. Hence, these are the benefits of growing palm oil, and therefore government has increasingly focused on increasing the palm oil production in the country. Now, what are other methods that should be utilized to increase production of various oilseeds in the country? There was this committee called Ashok Dalwai Committee, which was formed by Government of India to suggest measures to double the farmers' income. And this committee gave various suggestions as far as cultivation of oilseeds are concerned. Naturally, the first suggestion by this committee was to increase the production of oilseeds in the country. And how can we increase the production? We can do that through utilizing high yielding variety of seeds, providing these rain fed crop cultivation or oilseed cultivation areas with support for micro irrigation. Further, through soil health card scheme, we can also rationalize the use of fertilizers. Hence, rationalized use of fertilizers, water support through micro irrigation, as well as high yielding variety of seeds will enable India to increase its domestic oil seeds production. Further, government is also emphasizing on reducing the per capita consumption of oils or edible oils in the country. For example, government has launched what is called a Fit India campaign. And utilizing this particular campaign, people they should reduce the amount of oil seeds or edible oil consumption, because naturally these edible oils they are harmful as far as long term implications are concerned. Further, government it should also look to bring these oil seeds under the ambit of public distribution system, because government of India it distributes various cereals and other important food products through public distribution system. And when government it will provide edible oils as well, this will encourage government to procure more and more oil seeds from farmers utilizing this very MSP regime. Hence, increased demand by the government under PDS, it will enable government to procure more and more oil crops from farmers. And this will encourage farmers to grow more and more oil seeds because of their assured procurement by the government. Further, there should be an increased impetus on domestic varieties of oil seeds. And for that, we need a calibrated import tariff policy. Because currently, import tariffs in India, it is dependent on domestic requirements of edible oil. And hence, whenever there is a less domestic production of edible oils, these import tariffs they are reduced automatically by the government to reduce the import cost of these oil seeds. However, this reduced import tariff they also discourage farmers to produce more and more oil seeds. Hence, these import tariffs they need to be linked with MSP, and they should not be changed in a very arbitrary manner by the government. Because when this import tariff they will be linked with MSP, this will encourage domestic farmers to grow more and more oil seeds. And utilizing this increasing production, reducing per capita consumption, giving impetus to domestic varieties, and bringing oil seeds under the ambit of public distribution system, these are various strategies for increasing the production of oil seeds in the country. Hence, this was all for today's discussion on edible oils. And with this, let us move to the second mains related article which appeared in both the Hindu newspaper as well as Indian Express of yesterday, that was 26th of January. Now this particular news article it deals with President Macron's visit to India on occasion of Republic Day. And on this very occasion and his visit, India signed various agreements with France. The two most important agreements it related to defense sector as well as space cooperation. And France it is an important bilateral partner as far as India is concerned, because France is the first country with which India signed this strategic partnership agreement. Further, GS paper 2 syllabus it deals with various bilateral agreements which involve or which affects India's interest. And India's agreement with France on defense and space cooperation it exactly comes under this part of GS2 syllabus. Further, India's important relationship with other important powers such as US and Russia, it was a subject of previous year question of the year 2020. Hence, a candidate they can expect a similar question based on Indo-France relationship. And this is our subject of today's discussion in the second mains related article. Now, I've highlighted that time and again France has proven to be a reliable partner of India, because back in 1998 when India tested its nuclear weapons in the Pokhran range, various Western nations such as UK and US it condemned India on this very step. However, France it did not take such a drastic step. Rather, it continued its cooperation with India, and it shows the importance of France as far as Indian bilateral relations are concerned. And also, in recent times, India is looking to move away from Russia, which is a source of its most of its military equipment. And as a natural result, France has emerged as an alternative where India can source cutting edge military technologies such as fighter jets as well as submarines. Hence, you can understand Indo France relationship is very important as far as India is concerned. Now, what are various pillars of cooperation between these two great nations? The first and probably the most highlighted aspect of Indo France relation is that of defense sector cooperation. Because historically, India sourced many important military equipments from France. For example, in 1980s, India sourced Mirage 2000 fighter jets from France, and these fighter jets it played a pivotal role in Kargil conflict as well as recent Balakot bombing. Also, current and the most advanced fighter jet of Indian Air Force, that is Rafale, they are also French origin. Further, Indian Navy it has procured what is called a Scorpion submarines, and six number of Scorpion submarines it was procured and manufactured in India. And this was possible only through active cooperation of France in the defense sector. Further, India is looking to increase its self-reliance on domestic manufacturing as far as its import or its military requirement is concerned. And in this regard, France can also prove to be an important partner. Because India it is currently developing a fifth generation fighter aircraft under the AMCA program. And naturally, this fighter aircraft it requires engine. Hence, to develop this engine, India is requiring or India is looking to cooperate with France. Further, India also requires what is called a nuclear attack submarines. And after France lost its contract from Australia, France is looking to provide important submarines to many other economies. And in this regard, India can also cooperate with France to develop its domestic nuclear attack submarines. Hence, this signifies the importance of France as far as India's defense relationship is concerned. The second most important aspect of Indo-France relationship is developments in the space sector. Because India, it signed agreements between ISRO, which is Indian Space Research Organization, and CNES, which is France National Space Agency, for cooperation as far as Gaganyaan mission is concerned. Because India, it wants to support or it wants to send astronauts in the outer space. And to support their livelihood in the outer space, India needs various technologies as far as life support systems are concerned. And who will provide these technologies? It is France that will cooperate with India. Further, there has been increased activity in the Indian Ocean region is concerned. And this requires India to significantly scale up its space situational awareness, which requires satellites to monitor the shipping flow in the Indian Ocean region. And in this regard, India it is cooperating with France to gain or to substantially increase its space situational awareness capabilities. Hence, both in defense as well as space sector, France is playing a pivotal role as far as cooperation with India is concerned. Further, India also signed a nuclear agreement with France back in the year of 2008. Because in 2008, India signed a Indo-US nuclear deal, and immediate after signing this Indo-US nuclear deal, France it entered into a civil nuclear partnership with India. And under this civil nuclear partnership, France it highlighted that it will establish or it will install Jadpur nuclear power plant in state of Maharashtra, and it will also provide India with small modular reactors and advanced modular reactors for its various research purposes. Hence, you can see nuclear cooperation, specifically with that of nuclear power, it is an important facet of India-France relationship. Also, France is an increasing economic partner with India because France or foreign direct investment of France has crossed the mark of $10.6 billion from the year 2000 to present. And important French companies such as Alstom, which provides metro trains, as well as Total, which is a oil and gas major, as well as PSA, which is an automobile manufacturer, they have set up their operations in Indian territory. Further, India also exports various different products to France, primary among which are pharmaceutical products as well as petroleum products. And with increasing Russia Ukraine war and cutting down on Russian imports, France has increased its import from India as far as petroleum products is concerned. Hence, you can see that economic cooperation, especially with that of foreign direct investment and export, has been growing as far as Indo France relationship is concerned. Further, India has also collaborated with France for development of supercomputers. Whereas France, it wants India to give its technology related to unified payment interface. And even in its current visit, the French president, he utilized UPI to pay for handicrafts. Hence, you can see India's digital public infrastructure, it has created a soft power as far as India is concerned. And various developed nations, especially France, they are looking to utilize Indian expertise in digital finance or digital public infrastructure. Further, France has been a steadfast support of India in international forums. For example, India, it can rely France to provide veto in the United Nations Security Council. Further, France has also been supporter that India should get a permanent membership in the very United Nations Security Council. Further, France has also support membership of India in other multilateral groupings such as MTCR, Wassenaar Agreement, Australia Group, as well as also supports India's membership to Nuclear Suppliers Group. Further, India and France, they also have a similar kind of agreement or similar kind of outlook as far as international terrorism is concerned. Because both of these nations, that is India and France, they are subjected to terrorism from international jurisdictions. And in this regard, Indo and France, they are looking to cooperate for Convention for Comprehensive International Terrorism. Further, climate change has also been an increasing area of cooperation between both India and France. Because back in Paris summit, India and France, it got together and curated or established what was known as International Solar Alliance. Because this solar alliance, it wants to focus increasing demand and supply of solar power across the world. And developments in solar power will play a critical role in reducing the emissions from power sector. Hence, in spaces like defense and space cooperation, as well as nuclear power, India is witnessing an increasing cooperation with France. Further, France is an important partner or important economic partner as far as Indian economy is concerned. Also, with decreasing support of Russia in many different arguments, India can continuously rely on support of France as far as international forums is concerned. Further, with increasing demands or increasing problems related to climate change, Indo and France initiative, especially that of International Solar Alliance, it can play a key role in reducing the emissions from power sector. And this highlights the important pillars of cooperation. Am I audible, students? Am I audible? I can still not see the videos. I guess the connection have been restored. Now let me again emphasize what are the irritants in the Indo-France relationship? Now, the most important geopolitical event currently that is going on in the continent of Europe is that of Russia-Ukraine war. And in this war, India and France, they have taken what is called a divergent positions. Because France, being a European nation, it wants to reduce the influence of Russia. Hence, France, it supports Ukraine in its fights with Russia. And in this regard, France has provided both economic as well as military support to the Ukraine. Whereas on the other hand, India has taken somewhat an ambivalent position in the Russia-Ukraine war. Because India, it highlights the importance of international peace and it has requested both of these parties to cease conflict with immediate effect. And this is what you can call a divergent position in Indo-France relationship. However, both of these nations, they are known for establishing or demonstrating what is known as strategic autonomy. Because both of these nations, they take decisions which are best for their own national interest. Hence, despite these divergent positions, both of these nations, they are in adequate place to understand the importance of various nations in India and France relationship. Further, India's bilateral trade with that of France, it only accounts for 1.4% of its total international trade. Hence, you can understand that despite increasing level of cooperation between both India and France, the importance of bilateral trade is somewhat marginal. Further, there has been significant delays in establishing the Jaipur nuclear power. Because this nuclear power plant, it has been subjected to delays in design, implementation as well as issue of civil nuclear liability. Hence, all these three positions, that is divergent position, low importance of bilateral trade as well as delays in nuclear cooperation has become a source of irritant in the Indo-French relationship. Hence, what should be the ideal way forward in order to take both Indo and French relationship to scale new heights? Let us discuss this in this very particular slide. And the first important step to increase the cooperation between these two great nations is to complete the stalled projects at its earliest possible time. Because this delay over establishment and installation of Jaipur nuclear plant has been a constant source of irritant. Hence, fast forwarding the design and implementation and solving the issues particular to civil nuclear liability, it is very much needed for completion of this very stalled project. Further, India has also been involved in negotiations with European Union over what is known as bilateral trade and investment agreement, which is a form of free trade agreement. An importance of France in this negotiation cannot be understated. Hence, India should utilize its deft diplomacy with respect to France to sign this free trade agreement with European Union at its earliest possible time. And probably the most important step in fast forwarding its relationship with France, it relates to increasing the people to people partnership. Because any bilateral partnership between two nations, it can reach new heights when people and people partnership between a two nation take place. For example, India's relationship with US, it has scaled new heights in recent past because Indian diaspora in US is a significant vote bank. And also many Indian origin people, they are head of important technological and businesses in the US. And they have a significant influence in the US polity. And this has driven Indian relationship with US despite several disagreements on important geopolitical issues. And similar approach it can also be taken for India's relationship with France. And the most important aspect in this regard is to develop the language. Because India and US, they have significant cooperation over English language. However, similar cooperation cannot be expected with France because French citizens, they speak their own French language. Hence, in order to improve people to people partnership, India should look to popularize the use of French in Indian educational institutions. And in this regard, there was this agreement signed between Jaipur government and France, where most of the schools in Rajasthan state will provide education in French language. And this is a positive step as far as increasing the people to people relationship between these two great nations. Hence, this was all for today's discussion on Indo-France relationship. And with this, we move to summary of various op-eds of the Hindu newspaper. The first op-ed, it appeared again in Hindu newspaper and it deals with Bilkis Bano judgment which was given by the Supreme Court, which negated the remission that was granted to convicts by the Gujarat government. And this particular op-ed, it is mostly political in nature. However, it deals with three important concepts, which is remission, reformative justice, as well as carceral feminism. And these concepts, they can be utilized for GS paper 2 discussions as well as for your essays and GS paper 4 topics. Hence, we will deal with these topics one by one. Now, what is this remission? This remission, it means that reduction in jail terms of convicts. Hence, when a jail term of convict, it is reduced, this particular step, it is termed as remission. And India's Code for Criminal Procedure, which was passed in 1973, it has two sections which specifically deals with providing remissions to convicted criminals. For example, utilizing section 432 of the CRPC, state government, it has the power to grant remissions to convicted criminals. Because if these criminals, they demonstrate good behavior, then state government, it can provide remission to these very criminals. However, as far as criminals which are convicted for life terms, they are concerned, section 433 subsection A of CRPC Act, it deals with criminals who are under life imprisonment. And these criminals, they can only be provided remission after the completion of 14 years jail term. Hence, this particular subsection was used by Gujarat government to provide remission to convicts which are convicted for rape of Bilkis Bano. Now, this is what remission is. Again, this particular op-ed, it deals with two important terms. First is carceral feminism, which is another term when feminists, they advocate for harsher and longer prison sentences for criminals who are convicted of crimes on women. Hence, increasing jail terms for especially criminals who are accused of rape or murder of women, it is termed as a carceral feminism. And this carceral feminism, it is a form of retributive justice. Because in retributive justice, the justice, it emphasizing on punishing a particular person for acts of crime which was committed by them. However, there's also another type of justice which is called as reformative justice. And in this kind of justice, the focus is rather on reforming and not punishing an individual. Because advocates of reformative justice, they are of the opinion that it is reformative justice which can resolve any conflict in a much more constructive way. And if Indian polity, which prima facie favors retributive justice, it does not provide criminals a chance to reform themselves. An Indian polity and its constitution, it also provides for reformative justice. For example, there's this Juvenile Justice Act, which provides an opportunity to juveniles to reform themselves even after they've committed several crimes. And hence, this particular op-ed, it is of the opinion that carceral feminism, which advocates for harsher and longer prison sentences, it goes against the notion of reformative justice. Hence, any attempt to reform the criminals, it should rather take an approach of reformative justice. Hence, this was all for today's discussion on first summary. And with this, let us move to the second summary, which also appeared in the Hindu newspaper. Now, this summary, it deals with migrants who are willing to work in the country of Israel, which is under war with Hamas. And this signifies that for living, people are willing to move to areas which are currently under war-like situations to meet their day-to-day life or day-to-day requirements. And this also brings attention to the highlight of migrant workers, both domestic migrant workers as well as international domestic workers, because they are subjected to challenges in their day-to-day life. For example, many of Indian workers, they are currently employed in Middle Eastern nations, which is again a hotspot of disruption in the global economy. And these workers, they are specifically engaged in employment which subscribes to low or risky working conditions. Further, they also work in a more segregated or discriminated environment because employers, especially in Middle East, they keep a hold of passports of these migrant workers. Hence, these migrant workers, they are expected to work longer hours and they are expected to work in harsh working conditions, which again negatively affects the well-being of migrant workers in a international territory. And further, these migrant workers, they are also not free to come back to their origin country, and because of the harsh visa requirements by these Middle Eastern countries. Further, there are also lack of provisions for social security, as well as there are restrictions on exercise of fundamental rights. And this social, economic, and political hardship that these migrant workers, they have to face in an international environment. And this is the subject of today's discussion of this particular news article. Hence, to provide increasingly welfare for international workers, what government should India it should look is to provide skill training to aspirant workers, and it should also involve diplomatically with many countries to provide for transfer of social security provisions. Hence, this was all for today's discussion on second summary. And with this, let us move to the final article of the day, which again appeared in the editorial section of the Hindu newspaper. Now, this particular editorial, it highlights that there are three parties in the Russia-Ukraine war. That is Russia, Ukraine, as well as NATO. Now, why this war occurred in the first place? Because post World War II era, we witnessed emergence of two transnational organizations. First was Western dominated Northern Atlantic Treaty Organization, which was established primarily by United States to provide collective security to Western European nations. Whereas on the other hand, this NATO, which predominated the Western European, it was balanced by the Soviet Union through creation of Warsaw Pact. And these two transnational organizations, they wanted to increase their sphere of influence as far as both West and East was concerned. However, post disintegration of Soviet Russia, that is USSR, what we saw that NATO, it expanded eastward, which you can see from this graph earlier. The NATO and Warsaw Pact, it was separated from what was called I'll utilize another color, what was called an Iron Curtain. And this Iron Curtain, it separated West from Eastern European. However, with disintegration of USSR, what we saw that this NATO, it shifted eastwards. Hence, more and more Eastern nations such as Poland and these three Baltic states, they again became members of NATO, which signified eastward expansion of NATO, and it came in close vicinity to Russia. and that Ukraine, it agreed to become a member of NATO. Russia took this move as a hostile move which will bring NATO to the borders of Russia. Hence, to protect its territorial as well as security sovereignty, what Russia did was that it committed aggression on Ukraine war. And this led to conflict between both Russia and Ukraine. And in order to check the Russian influence, which was very large when compared with Ukraine, what Western nations did was that they supported Ukraine through both economic support as well as military hardware support. And utilizing West support, what Ukraine did was that it created a stalemate as far as Russian aggression is concerned. And this stalemate has resulted into death and injuries of civilian population. And because of this, today's news article, as well as Indian countries general, it is of the opinion that both of these countries should rather talk among themselves. Because 2 years ago, even Indian Prime Minister, he highlighted that this was not time of war. Rather, it was time of peace. Hence, both these three stakeholders in the Russia-Ukraine war, they should rather look to cease the conflict with immediate effect. Hence, this was all for today's discussion in the Daily News Simplified, and we'll see you again tomorrow at 6 p.m. where Abhishek sir will come up with a recap of weekly DNS. Hence, see you tomorrow sharply at 6 p.m. And with this, I bid you a very good night.